Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. Let's say you're lying there, cozy under your blanket, maybe sipping a warm drink, thinking this will be a relaxing night. Perfect. Because tonight, you're about to stumble into a world of muddy boots, clanging swords, and kings who really need better conflict resolution strategies. Welcome to the tangled, exhausting wars between medieval kingdoms. And let's be honest, you wouldn't last a day out here. Seriously. Between the tax collectors, the plague, and the occasional arrow flying at your head, you'd be back to your blanket faster than you can say feudal obligation. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below with where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing where in the world you're tuning in. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge along a narrow dirt path, flanked by empty fields and the occasional twisted, leafless tree. The sky's gray and heavy, as if even it is tired of this endless war. In the distance, you spot the banners of rival kingdoms flapping in the breeze, the deep red of the northern realm, the blue of their neighbors, and somewhere between, the tattered flags of those who tried to stay neutral and failed miserably. From far off comes the sound of hooves, steady, slow, more tired than triumphant. The horses, like their riders, are worn down by miles of marching and the weight of too much armor. One snorts, sending a puff of steam into the cold air, and seems to give you a look that says, "You don't want to be here either, huh? These kingdoms were once at peace," or so the stories say. But borders shift with rivers and storms, and before you know it, someone's building a castle where another man grazed his sheep. You pass a crooked wooden sign that declares in smeared paint, "Land of King X." A few steps further, another sign leans drunkenly on top of it, "Property of King Y." It's like a medieval version of toddlers fighting over toys. On a nearby hill, a cluster of sentries huddle around a fire, peeling root vegetables and glancing at the sky as if hoping for rain to cancel tomorrow's battle. One of them spits into the embers and mutters, "Historians will call this the Great Front." All I see is wind and boiled turnips. The night deepens. The only sound is the restless shifting of men and horses, the occasional creak of leather, the snap of a twig underfoot. You wrap your cloak tighter, the smell of damp wool filling your nose. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen from ancient Egypt? At least that had a purpose. Here, the soldiers smear mud on their faces as camouflage and then complain about the breakouts. A sharp gust of wind stings your cheeks. Far off, a horn calls out. A long, thin wail that sounds more like a dying animal than a call to arms. No help is coming. A few soldiers fumble with their boots, adjust helmets that don't quite fit, or whisper hurried prayers to saints you've never heard of. A boy, hardly older than 15, drops his sword into the mud. You hand it back. It weighs more than you'd expect. Definitely not ergonomic. You pass between tents that sag under the weight of damp canvas. Horses stamp and huff. Somewhere, a man coughs the kind of cough that promises he won't be around by next winter. Near a broken stone wall, an old peasant hunches by a post, eyes closed. Sleeping? Praying? You don't ask. Some scholar once called this the age of honor and courage. You wonder if he ever stood in the dark, hungry, ankle-deep in mud, with his breath fogging the air and the scent of fear thick around him. On the walls of a ruined village, a single lantern flares to life. The battle hasn't begun. Not yet, but the tension is as sharp as the swords glinting in the moonlight. Sweat, smoke, the sour tang of dread. They all mix in the chill night air. You look up at the sky, where the moon hides behind scudding clouds. An owl calls, and half the camp jumps, hands flying to hilts, before realizing the threat was feathered. There's a chuckle, a shake of the head, the sword slid sheepishly back into its scabbard. And you? You're caught in the stillness before the storm. Tomorrow will bring chaos, noise, blood, and mud. But tonight, there is only the wind, the cold, and the quiet thrum of a world holding its breath. You don't remember falling asleep, but somehow the gray dawn finds you anyway. A thin mist clings to the ground, as if the earth itself is trying to hide from what's coming. You stretch, bones cracking, cloak damp and heavy. Your boots squelch in the mud, and for a brief, foolish moment, you hope maybe, just maybe, the battle was called off overnight. Maybe the kings shook hands, decided to go home, bake pies, and write poems instead of stabbing each other over pasture land. Then the horn sounds again. This time it's closer, louder, more insistent. The camp stirs, groans, muttered curses. The shuffle of feet as soldiers emerge from tents, looking as ready for war as you'd look for a surprise dentist appointment. The ground vibrates faintly with the tread of armored men forming ranks. Flags are hoisted. The blue and red banners you saw yesterday now hang limp in the mist, their colors dulled by morning gloom. A knight rides past, his visor raised just enough for you to see the dark circles under his eyes. He nods at you, tight-lipped, like two commuters passing on a rainy morning, except his destination involves more arrows. Somewhere behind you, a squire struggles to buckle a breastplate onto a man whose belly has clearly outgrown it. They wrestle with the straps until both are red-faced and swearing creatively in Latin and local dialects. A nearby priest pretends not to hear as he sprinkles holy water on anything that stands still long enough. Soldiers, swords, even a donkey tied to a post who looks distinctly unimpressed by the blessing. And speaking of donkeys, you notice one laden with spare shields and spears, looking as if it, too, would like to file for conscientious objector status. The two kings, yes, the ones who started all this, are somewhere up on the ridge, no doubt arguing over tactics, honor, or which of them has the shinier crown. Historians still debate whether this particular battle was planned carefully or simply happened because neither side wanted to blink first. The truth probably lies somewhere between strategy and stubbornness, with a generous helping of bad luck. The mist begins to lift, revealing the full mess of humanity assembled below. Archers string their bows, fingers roar from the cold. Foot soldiers tap their spears against the ground in nervous rhythm. A drummer boy beats out a cadence meant to steady the troops' hearts, but mostly just reminds you of how loud everything is about to get. The first arrow always seems to come from nowhere. A dark blur through the air, a distant shout, and then chaos. The field erupts, men charging, horses screaming, the clash of steel on steel. You duck instinctively as a spear flies past, thudding into the mud where you stood a heartbeat ago. A soldier grabs your arm, hauls you behind a cart, and shouts something about staying low. Good advice. You stay low. Mud spatters your face as hooves churn the ground to soup. A knight crashes past, his shield dented, his plume torn, his expression somewhere between fury and regret. You wonder if he imagined war would be more glamorous. Spoiler, it's not. A curious fact, some chroniclers later claimed that this battle was won by clever maneuvering. Others said it was pure luck, a sudden shift in wind that sent a volley of arrows off course, or a rainstorm that turned the field into a swampy mess where horses floundered. Either way, neither side walked away, claiming much glory. But both claimed victory, because that's what kings do. Through the din, you catch sight of a drummer boy. Yes, the same one. Now separated from his unit, beating furiously on his drum as if sheer noise might drive the enemy back. A stray arrow silences the drum. The boy stares, stunned at the broken skin of the instrument, as if it betrayed him. You help him up, steer him toward the safety of a crumbling wall. He looks at you with wide eyes, nods once, and vanishes into the haze. A nobleman falls nearby, his fine armor muddy, his jeweled sword lost in the churned earth. His squire tries to drag him free, but slips, and the two of them end up tangled like laundry dropped on a wet floor. You don't stay to see what happens next. Smoke begins to rise. The inevitable fires, accidental or otherwise. The stench of burning wood mixes with the iron tang of blood and the sour reek of fear. You cough, eyes stinging, and stumble toward the edge of the field, where a small knot of soldiers has gathered around a standard half buried in the mud. They argue over whether it's theirs. One claims it by the stitching on the edge, another by the mud pattern on the cloth. The third shrugs and says, "Does it matter?" No one's watching. The mist returns with the rain, turning everything to gray shapes and muffled sounds. The battle, if it can still be called that, winds down not with a grand charge or a heroic stand, but with exhausted men slumping where they stand, too tired to fight, too wet to care. You sit at the edge of the field, soaked, chilled, heart pounding. A stray dog trots past, nose to the ground, as if searching for scraps of dignity left behind. You'd offer him yours, but you're not sure you have any left. Tomorrow the chroniclers will write their versions. The kings will declare victory, the minstrels will compose ballads that skip the mud and terror, and somewhere, someone will paint a picture of shining armor on a sunny field. But you'll know the truth. And tonight, as the rain patters softly on your cloak, you can almost believe you're safe. Almost. Dawn's aftermath is a strange thing. You'd expect silence after a battle. Solemn, heavy silence. But instead, the world hums. Birds, oblivious or uncaring, resume their songs. The rain has stopped, leaving the field soggy and steaming under a pale sun that tries its best to look heroic, but mostly highlights just how grim everything actually is. You're still where you collapsed at the field's edge, cloak heavy with rain and grime. A breeze carries the mingled scents of wet earth, burnt wood, and something that might generously be called victory, but smells more like exhaustion. Around you, the cleanup has begun. Soldiers pick through the wreckage, searching for friends, for enemies, for anything of value. A man you saw fighting just hours ago now crouches in the mud, prying a dented helmet off a fallen foe. His hands shake, not from effort, but from something deeper. You look away, pretending you don't see. A priest walks the field, offering blessings with one hand, while holding his robe clear of the muck with the other. His voice is low, weary, as if he's given the same prayer so many times it's lost its shape. A small cluster of women follows him, tending the wounded where they can, their aprons stained in ways that no amount of scrubbing will ever quite fix. You stand, legs protesting, and try to shake off the night. Your boots squelch as you move. Mud clings to your every step, as if the battlefield doesn't want to let you go. Above it all, the banners still hang limp, their bright colors dulled by rain and ash. A few flutter half-heartedly in the breeze, torn and stained, the symbols of kingdoms that will claim glory for what happened here, even if the truth was little more than chaos and survival. Historians still debate who really won this day. Some say the king who held the ground. Others argue it was the one who retreated intact, saving his forces for another fight. A few, perhaps the wisest, suggest that no one won, that battles like this only leave ghosts behind, and kingdoms too weaken to claim anything but grief. You pass a group of archers gathered around a small fire. They share bread and cheese, passing a jug between them. Their laughter is brittle, forced, like men trying to pretend the world has snapped back to normal. One sees you, raises the jug in silent salute. You nod, but don't join them. You're not ready to laugh. Not yet. At the edge of camp, a boy tends to a horse with a wounded leg. The animal trembles as he binds it, murmuring soft words that mean nothing and everything at once. The boy's face is smudged with dirt and soot, his hands raw, his eyes older than they should be. You wonder if he'll remember this moment more than the battle itself. Beyond the camp, the landscape stretches wide and green, dotted with trees that somehow stood untouched. The sun rises higher, burning off the last of the mist, casting long shadows that look like forgotten soldiers, still standing at attention. You find a stream and kneel to wash. The water runs red for a moment, then clear. Your reflection stares back, tired, hollow-eyed, the face of someone who's seen too much and knows it. A nobleman rides past, his armor polished anew, plume restored, as if yesterday's horror was a mere inconvenience. He waves to the men, offering promises of reward, of honor, of songs sung in their name. You watch him go, his words floating behind him like autumn leaves, pretty and meaningless. A curious fact, many of these men will fight again before the year is out. Some will die in another field, for another king, over another slight or scrap of land. Some will vanish into the countryside, seeking quieter lives. A rare few will write of what they saw, not in songs of valor, but in quiet journals hidden in chests, read only by their grandchildren who won't quite believe them. You wander through the camp, past the cooks preparing thin stew from whatever could be salvaged, past the smith trying to straighten a bent sword over a makeshift forge. Everywhere, life resumes, not because it makes sense, but because it must. A crow caws from a nearby tree, eyeing you with the sharp gaze of a creature that knows exactly how fleeting human triumphs are. You toss a pebble at it. It hops aside, unimpressed. As night begins to fall, the camp settles. Fires are lit, tents patched, songs, tentative, tuneless, rise into the cooling air. You sit by a small flame, wrap your cloak tighter, and listen. The stars appear one by one, indifferent to the struggles below. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls, a sound both lonely and defiant. You close your eyes, breathing in the scent of smoke and grass and damp earth, and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Probably another war. But tonight, for a little while, there is peace. Night falls heavier this time. The fires of the camp glow like scattered stars on earth, flickering against the vast darkness that presses in from all sides. The air is thick with wood smoke, damp grass, and that ever-present undertone of something charred, as if the land itself remembers too much. You're lying beneath a crude awning of canvas, listening to the soft murmur of men trying to sleep, the snort of horses, the hiss of cooling coals. The moon hangs low, a thin sliver that offers light but no warmth. You shift, trying to find comfort on a bed of packed dirt and scattered straw. Spoiler, there is none. Somewhere nearby, a pair of knights argue in hushed tones. You can't make out all the word, but you catch fragments. Should have held the ridge. Cowards retreat. My men died for nothing. The bitterness in their voices cuts deeper than their swords ever could. Eventually, one storms off, boots crunching over the frost-hardened ground. The other sighs, a long, bone-deep sound that speaks of too many battles and not enough victories. You close your eyes, willing sleep to come. It doesn't. Instead, your mind replays the day's march, the endless mud, the weight of your pack, the way the banners snapped in the cold wind like they were angry too. The memory of the king's speech before the charge floats back, grand promises wrapped in velvet words, soon lost beneath the roar of battle. Historians still debate what that speech meant. Some claim it rallied the men to impossible bravery. Others say it was empty posturing, meant only to impress the visiting nobles. A few point out, not without irony, that the king survived the day unscathed, while half his guard did not. A fox slips through the camp's edge, its coat silver in the moonlight. It pauses, nose to the wind, then darts toward the cook fires, hoping for scraps. You envy its freedom, its certainty. No oaths, no banners, no endless war. Just hunger and the means to satisfy it. From a distant hill comes the mournful note of a horn. A signal, perhaps, or maybe just a shepherd calling home his flock. Either way, it sends a shiver down your spine. Sound travels differently at night, carrying secrets you'd rather not hear. You sit up, brushing the frost from your cloak. The world is quiet now, save for the crackle of dying fires and the occasional cough or murmur from a dreaming soldier. Above, the stars seem brighter, as if trying to remind you that beyond this mess of men and mud, there's still beauty. You stand and wander the camp, drawn toward the perimeter where sentries keep watch. One nods at you, eyes shadowed beneath his helm. You nod back, sharing in the unspoken understanding of those who can't sleep because their minds are too full. Beyond the camp, the land stretches black and endless. A ruined farmhouse leans drunkenly against the horizon, its roof caved in, its walls scarred by fire. A reminder that battles aren't the only things that burn. At the edge of the wood, an owl hoots, soft, low, patient. You find comfort in its call, steady and certain, a rhythm older than any kingdom. You think about how many nights like this it has witnessed, how many wars, how many men who thought themselves important. A truth few speak of. Wars between medieval kingdoms were rarely neat affairs of chivalry and honor. More often, they were brutal, messy, and driven by grudges as petty as they were deadly. A border dispute here, a broken marriage contract there, and suddenly thousands marched, bled and died for a scrap of land, or a wounded pride. You lean against a tree, feeling its rough bark beneath your fingers. The cold bites through your gloves, sharp and real. You breathe deep, filling your lungs with night air, trying to anchor yourself in the present, not in the past's horrors or the future's uncertainties. Just now. Somewhere in camp, a minstrel plucks at a lute, strings slightly out of tune. The melody is simple, haunting, a tune about a lover waiting by the sea. It drifts through the air, wrapping around you like a memory. You return to your bedroll eventually, the ground no softer, the night no warmer, but you feel calmer somehow. The stars wheel overhead, the owl calls again, and the fires burn low. The world turns, uncaring, unchanging. And you, for tonight, are simply part of it. Morning creeps in slowly, as if reluctant to take over from the night's quiet watch. The sky turns from black to deep blue, streaked with pale gold and lavender, and the camp stirs like a beast waking from uneasy sleep. You sit up, joints stiff, mouth dry, and wonder if anyone ever felt refreshed after a night like that. Spoiler: no. The fires have burned down to ash and ember. A cook ladles thin porridge into battered bowls, the kind that always seem to taste faintly of smoke no matter what's in them. The smell is comforting in its own way, like a promise that the day will be ordinary, or at least predictable, even if the hours ahead are anything but. You sip, the warmth filling your belly, and look out over the fields beyond the camp. Frost glitters on the grass, the last breath of winter clinging stubbornly to the earth. In the distance, banners stir as scouts return, their horses lathered and eyes hard. You don't need to hear the words to know what they bring. News of movement, of another army, of another day where survival will feel like victory. Nearby, a blacksmith stokes his forge back to life, hammering dents from battered helmets, reshaping blades notched by yesterday's fight. Sparks fly, tiny stars in the dawn light, and the ring of iron on iron is as steady as a heartbeat. A young squire struggles to strap a breastplate onto his knight, fingers numb with cold, brow furrowed in fierce concentration. The knight stands silent, gaze fixed on the horizon, as if trying to will the sun to rise faster, to burn off the chill, to bring clarity to what comes next. You wipe your hands on your cloak, stand, and begin the slow work of preparing. Check your gear, loosen your sword in its scabbard, adjust the straps on your boots. All the small rituals that give the illusion of readiness, that let you pretend control over a day destined for chaos. Historians still argue over the tactics of these campaigns. Some praise the clever ambushes, the forced marches, the feints that turned the tide. Others point out that more often, luck and weather decided who lived and who didn't. And always, the chroniclers of both sides claim their king's cause was just. As if justice could be so easily worn like a surcoat, clean and bright above the muck of war. The orders come down at last. Mount up. Form ranks. Move out. You join the column as it winds its way from camp, the ground crunching beneath iron-shod hooves, the air filled with the creak of leather, the clink of chainmail, the low murmur of men too tired to speak loudly. The road ahead is rutted and narrow, lined by bare trees that claw at the pale sky. A cart breaks a wheel in a frozen rut. The driver curses. Soldiers step around it, no one stopping. The army moves like a river. Slow, relentless, indifferent to small disasters. You pass through a village abandoned in haste. Doors hang open, shutters bang in the wind, chickens peck at the frozen ground. A dog watches from a doorway, ribs sharp beneath its skin, too weary or wise to bark. A fact most don't know, these villages, these farms, were often stripped bare by both sides. Armies foraged, which is a polite word for taking what they wanted. The people fled ahead of the armies like deer before the hunt, hoping only to return to something left standing. By midday, the sun breaks through fully, turning the frost to mud, the mud to treachery. The column bogs down, curses rising with the steam from sweating horses. You slip more than once, boots caked, temper fraying. A herald rides past, calling for patience, for order, for loyalty to king and country. His horse splashes you with cold mud as it passes. You consider loyalty a little less warmly in that moment. At last, the order is given to halt. You drop where you stand, grateful for the pause. The field around you is dotted with small fires, men huddling close, sharing what bread and meat they have. A juggler, where did he come from? Entertains a knot of archers with tricks that feel almost magical in this grim place. For a moment, you smile. A real one. The commander rides through the ranks, face set, eyes sharp. He speaks of duty, of glory, of the enemy's weakness. The men listen, but their thoughts are on their families, their homes, the simple joys they've left behind. A warm hearth, a soft bed, a meal shared in peace. As the afternoon wears on, the scouts return again. The enemy is closer than expected. There will be no rest tonight. You feel the shift ripple through the army. Tension tightening every muscle, sharpening every glance. The fires burn lower. The laughter fades. The juggler packs away his balls and quietly joins the ranks. The sun sinks, painting the clouds in blood and gold. Night approaches, and with it, the next chapter of this endless war. Night falls fast this time, as if even the sun has no stomach for what's coming. The last light bleeds out behind the hills, leaving the world bathed in deep shadow and the flicker of 100 scattered campfires. You stand at the edge of your small group, staring into the darkness, trying to see what you know is out there. Another army, another group of men just as cold, just as tired, just as unsure. The camp is quieter tonight. No songs, no stories, just the low murmur of officers conferring in tight circles, the occasional snort or stomp of restless horses, and the hiss of wind through bare trees. Even the juggler from earlier has nothing left to offer. He sits by his fire, turning one of his balls over and over in his hands, lost in thought. You huddle near the warmth, pulling your cloak tighter, listening to the crack and pop of burning wood. The smell of smoke clings to everything, your hair, your clothes, your skin. Somewhere, someone tries to boil water for tea, the thin scent of herbs barely noticeable over the stink of mud and men. A sentry passes, his mail rattling softly, his eyes hollow with lack of sleep. He nods at you, and you nod back. That small, silent exchange of those who understand what it means to be awake when the world would rather dream. Historians often argue about what mattered most in these wars. Was it the courage of the knights, the cleverness of the commanders, or was it nights like this, when nothing happened, but everything mattered, when fear and hope twisted together, tight as a bowstring, and every creak in the dark could be friend or foe? Your mind drifts despite yourself. You think of the land beyond this muddy field, the villages, the farms, the quiet forests, the people hiding in them now, waiting for word, for peace, for a chance to return to lives interrupted by banners and blades. You wonder if they hate you, or pity you, or if they've simply stopped thinking about soldiers altogether. A horse whinnies sharply, the sound loud in the stillness. You tense, hand on your hilt, heart hammering. But it's just a horse, spooked by a gust of wind or the shifting shadows of a nearby tree. The sentries relax. So do you. A little. A soft drizzle begins, cold and steady, turning the ground beneath you to a slick mess. The fires sputter and hiss, casting strange, wavering light across the camp. You pull your hood up, but it's no match for the damp that finds its way into every seam, every gap. Someone nearby mutters about cursed weather, about cursed wars, about cursed kings. You don't disagree. A commander walks by, cloak heavy with rain, face set in grim determination. He speaks quietly to his men, words you can't quite catch, but tone clear enough. Be ready. Be steady. The night is long, but morning will come. And so you wait. And wait. The rain eases before dawn, leaving the world wet and heavy, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and wood smoke. The fire's a little more than glowing coals now. The camp stirs slowly, like a man waking from a troubled dream. A boy, no older than 15, stumbles past, carrying a bundle of arrows almost as tall as he is. His boots squelch in the mud, his face pale but determined. You watch him go, feeling the weight of his youth, of all youth lost to these endless struggles. Dawn breaks, pale and uncertain, and with it, the call to arms. You rise, aching, tired, but ready as you can be. Because that's all there is. Dawn is not kind. It spills over the hills in a weak wash of grey, illuminating the soaked camp, the tired faces, the churned mud that was once a field. The fires are out now, leaving behind only thin spirals of smoke that curl like ghosts toward the low, heavy clouds. You pull your cloak tighter, though it does little good. The cold finds you anyway, settling into your bones like an unwelcome guest. The order comes down. Form up, and so you do. Along with everyone else, you take your place in the long, ragged lines that snake across the wet ground. Banners rise, limp in the damp air, their colors muted. And for a moment, the field looks almost beautiful, like some grim tapestry come to life. The men shift and murmur, checking their weapons, adjusting straps, glancing sideways at their neighbors. You do the same. It's a ritual, as much as prayer or mass, this quiet preparation for what's to come. Ahead in the distance, the enemy does the same. You can see them now, just visible through the morning mist, a dark mass, glints of steel, the flash of a standard as it's raised high. They're close, closer than you'd like. The ground between you is soft and treacherous, churned by rain and hoof and wheel. The kind of ground that will make every step a fight, every charge a gamble. You try not to think about it. You try not to think at all. A trumpet sounds once, twice. The lines begin to move. Slow at first, like some giant creature waking from sleep, then faster as the distance closes. The clatter of armor, the slap of boots in mud, the snort and whinny of horses all blend into a single, rising roar that fills your ears and drowns out thought. You advance, heart hammering, breath coming in sharp, cold bursts. The world narrows, the enemy ahead, the ground beneath, the weight of your sword at your side. Historians still debate how these battles were won. They speak of tactics, the timing of the charge, the placement of archers, the use of terrain. But here, now, you feel the truth. Battles are won by those who can keep moving forward when everything in them screams to stop. The clash comes sudden and brutal. Shouts, steel on steel, the wet thud of blade meeting flesh, the crush of bodies, the reek of sweat and fear and blood. You swing, block, push, stumble, right yourself, swing again. The noise is overwhelming, a storm of sound, of violence, of desperation. You lose track of time, of space, of self. It's just survival. One moment to the next. At some point, the lines break apart, reform, break again. Men fall, men rise. The mud grows slick and red. A standard topples, another rises in its place. You fight because there is no choice, because to stop is to fall, because to fall is to be lost beneath the tide. And then, as suddenly as it began, the enemy gives. Slowly at first, then faster, their lines waver, break, scatter. A cheer rises, ragged, unbelieving from your side. You stand breathless, shaking, sword heavy in your hand, and watch them flee. You survived, not through skill, not through glory, but through stubbornness, through sheer refusal to fall. Around you the field is chaos. Bodies, broken weapons, lost standards. The wounded cry out. The dying whisper prayers. The victorious sag where they stand, too spent to cheer for long. The rain begins again, soft and cold. It washes the blood from your blade, from your hands, but not from your memory. And you know this was one battle. There will be more. Always more. The battle is waves over, but the field keeps its grip on you. The cries of the wounded linger in the air, carried by the wind, mingling with the soft patter of rain on ruined armor. You stand still for a long moment, sword low at your side, feeling the ache in your arms, the sting of shallow cuts you didn't even notice during the fight. The mud pulls at your boots as if the earth itself wants to claim you, along with the fallen. Around you, the survivors move like ghosts. Some kneel beside fallen friends, hands shaking as they search for breath that won't come. Others gather what can be salvaged. Swords, shields, arrows still straight enough to be reused. A few begin the grim work of tending the wounded, binding wounds with strips torn from their own tunics, whispering comfort, or perhaps last rites. And then there are the crows. Already they gather at the edges of the field, black shapes against the grey sky, waiting. They always wait. You try not to look at them, but it's hard. Their patience is endless. Historians will tell you this was a great victory. They'll point to maps, to casualty counts, to captured standards. They'll write of strategy and courage and the cleverness of commanders. But here, on this field, it feels less like victory and more like survival bought at too high a price. The line between hero and victim is thin and mud-slick, easy to cross without even knowing it. A boy stumbles past, his face streaked with mud and tears, a bloodied standard clutched tight in his small hands. He looks at you, eyes wide and hollow, and for a heartbeat, you see yourself reflected there. Then he's gone, swallowed by the fog that rises now, curling over the field like the breath of the dead. The order comes to regroup. You move, because what else is there to do? You fall in with the others, forming ragged lines that bear little resemblance to the proud formations of the morning. Banners are raised, fewer now, and roll limply in the damp breeze. A captain rides past, his face pale beneath his helmet, his voice hoarse as he calls out commands. His horse limps, favoring one leg, but still he presses on. A makeshift camp is set up on a patch of higher ground. Fires are kindled with wet wood that smokes more than it burns. The smell of it stings your eyes, makes you cough, but it's better than the cold. You sit or slump or simply stand staring at nothing in particular, trying to remember how to be a person instead of a blade. Food is brought around. Hard bread, thin broth. It tastes like ash and exhaustion, but you eat because your body demands it. Water shared from battered flasks, tastes of leather and metal. Still, it's better than thirst. A priest moves through the camp, offering prayers, blessings, comfort where he can. His voice is soft, steady, a thread of peace woven through the noise of the living and the silence of the dead. You listen without really hearing, the words washing over you like the rain. The night promises no rest. You know this. The enemy may be beaten, but the world is still dangerous, still cold, still filled with the hunger of war. So you sit by the fire, watching the smoke curl upward, thinking of home, of peace, of anything but this. And somewhere, in the darkness beyond the camp, a wolf howls. A reminder that the wild cares nothing for kings or causes. Only survival, like you. The camp settles into uneasy silence as night drapes its dark cloak over the field. The fires burn low now, their glow casting long, flickering shadows that dance across battered tents and slumped figures. You sit close to the embers, the heat barely enough to warm your chilled fingers, and listen, not just to the soft crackle of flame, but to everything. The coughs of the wounded, the murmur of a prayer, the distant, steady rhythm of rain dripping from canvas and steel. Sleep does not come easily. Your body is weary, every muscle aching from the day's trial, but your mind won't let go. It replays the clash, the chaos, the faces of men you knew who will not see another dawn. You see again the glint of steel, the wild fear in a foe's eyes just before your blade found him. The weight of it presses down, heavier than mail, heavier than the mud caked on your boots. Historians will later argue about what happens next. Some will claim the army's pause here was a masterstroke of caution, a brilliant decision to regroup and fortify. Others will say it was hesitation, the mark of a commander unsure of his next move. But here, at the edge of this smoky camp, it feels simpler. It feels like exhaustion, like men and women and beasts pushed to the limit, needing one night, just one, to breathe before fate drives them onward again. The sentries pace along the perimeter, their shapes barely visible in the gloom. Now and then a voice calls out, challenging a shadow that might be man or beast or trick of the eye. The answers come, terse and tired. No alarms yet, but you sense how thin the peace is, like ice stretched across dark water. Your hand strays to the hilt of your sword, more out of habit than readiness. You wonder, not for the first time, how many more nights like this there will be before you can lay it down for good. Before the world forgets your name, your battles, your small part in the great grinding wheel of history. Beside you, a comrade shifts in their sleep, murmuring a name. A lost friend, perhaps, or family far away. You don't ask. You don't need to. Grief is a common language in this place, and everyone speaks it fluently by now. Above, the clouds break for a moment, and the moon's pale face peers down, lighting the field in silver. You see the battered banners, the ragged rows of tents, the weary army trying to be whole again. It is beautiful and terrible all at once, and then the clouds return, and the night deepens. You pull your cloak tight and close your eyes, hoping for rest, knowing it will not come easily. Tomorrow, the march resumes. The war waits. Dawn comes slowly, reluctant to cast light on the scarred land. The sky is streaked with gray and rose, clouds hanging low as if even they are weary of what this day will bring. You rise stiffly, feeling every bruise, every sore muscle earned in battle and restless sleep. The camp stirs around you. A low murmur of voices, the clatter of pots, the creak of leather and wood as armor is buckled, shields hefted once more. The fires are down to ashes now, but their smoke still curls into the morning air, mingling with the sharp tang of sweat, steel, and damp earth. A thin fog clings to the ground, swallowing footprints, blurring the edges of tents and men alike. You could almost believe the world is trying to hide what happened here, trying to give you a clean slate, almost. The order comes to move out, and so you do. The army forms ranks, ragged but determined. Banners lift into the breeze, tattered but proud, their colors dulled by rain and war. Horses snort and stamp, eager or nervous. It's hard to tell. You fall into step with the others, the rhythm of boots on wet ground steadying your thoughts, if only a little. Historians will later describe this as the beginning of the counter-march, a brilliant maneuver designed to reclaim lost territory and momentum. They'll write of the general's genius, of the courage of the common soldier. But here, in the churned mud of the road, it feels less like strategy, more like necessity. One foot forward because there is no other choice. The road winds through fields and forest, past villages that once thrived, but now lie silent. Thatched roofs sag or burn. Doors hang open. A chicken scurries across the path, startled by the column of warriors. You think of the people who lived here, wonder where they've gone. If they've fled to the woods, if they watch from the shadows, if they curse or bless your passing. A companion beside you breaks the silence with a joke. Something about the smell of the camp and how it could rout the enemy without a fight. You laugh, because what else is there to do? Laughter is lighter to carry than fear. As the sun climbs higher, the fog lifts, revealing the world in sharper detail. Every broken fence, every abandoned plough, every scar on the land that mirrors the ones you carry inside. The march halts at a rise overlooking a wide plain. Ahead lies your next trial, a river swollen with rain, its brown waters swift and unforgiving. Beyond it, the enemy's banners ripple in the distance, small as toys but no less real. The captain rides the line, calling for engineers, scouts, plans. You listen, heart steady now. The time for fear is past. What matters is crossing. What matters is surviving the day. And as you stand there, catching your breath, the breeze carries the scent of wild flowers. A small, strange mercy in the midst of ruin. You close your eyes for a heartbeat and let it fill your lungs. Then the orders come, and you move. The river is louder up close, its rushing voice filling your ears as the army gathers along its banks. The water is high from recent rains, brown and churning, dragging along broken branches and the debris of forgotten battles upstream. You stand at the edge, boots sinking into the wet earth, and feel the cool spray on your face. It smells of silt, of old leaves, of the world washing itself clean, though not clean enough. The engineers waste no time. Orders are barked, hands move quickly. Logs are dragged from carts, ropes uncoiled, stakes hammered deep. A bridge of sorts begins to take shape. Not elegant, not lasting, but maybe enough. You and others lend your strength, hauling wood, steadying beams, tying knots with fingers raw from sword hilts. The work is hard, but it steadies you. Here is a task, simple and clear. Build or be trapped. Historians will later debate this crossing. Some will claim it was masterful logistics, a turning point in the campaign. Others will say it was folly, reckless, desperate. But you? You'll remember the smell of wet wood and sweat, the creak of ropes under tension, the way the river seemed to mock your efforts with its endless roar. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. Armor is shed and sleeves rolled up. Faces streaked with dirt and determination. Now and then a shout rings out, a warning as a log slips, a cheer as a section holds firm. The bridge grows, foot by foot, spanning the gap between here and whatever waits beyond. And then the arrows come, a hiss through the air, a thud into wood, a cry of pain. The enemy has found you. From the far bank, from the tree line, they loose shafts in volleys, dark streaks against the bright sky. The engineers duck low, but they don't stop. Neither do you. You take up your shield, raise it high, sheltering the workers as best you can. Others do the same. The bridge must be finished. The crossing must be made. There is no other way. The air is thick with noise now, the snap of bowstrings, the slap of arrows into shields and ground, the grunts of effort as men pull, lift, tie. A horse screams as a shaft finds it. Someone drags the beast aside, clears the path. Finally, somehow, the bridge is ready. Narrow, shaky, but ready. The order is given. You go first, with others, shields raised, steps careful on the slick wood. The river snarls below, eager for mistakes, but you make it, breath held, until your boots find solid ground on the far side. And then, sword drawn, You turn to face what comes next. A cheer rises behind you as more cross, as the army begins to flow over the bridge like a tide turned back. The battle for the river has just begun, but the crossing, the impossible crossing, is done. And that is something. The moment your boots touch solid ground on the far bank, the air changes. The tension of the crossing doesn't lift. It sharpens, coils tight around every breath. The enemy is near now, too near, their banners flickering between the trees, their shouts carried on the wind. The ground beneath your feet is soft with moss and old leaves, but it feels as hard as stone under the weight of what comes next. The first clash is sudden, as these things always are. A burst of movement from the undergrowth, the glint of steel, the blur of faces both strange and familiar in their fury. You raise your shield just in time, the blow ringing against it like a bell. Your sword answers, finding a gap, driving your foe back. Not down, but back. The rhythm of battle returns to you, unwelcome and yet familiar, like an old song you thought you'd forgotten. Historians will later debate whether this was an ambush or simply a desperate defense. Some will say the enemy planned it, drew your forces across only to break them piecemeal. Others will claim they were as surprised as you, unready for the ferocity of your crossing. You, standing in the thick of it, know only this. The world narrows now to blade and breath, to the heartbeat in your ears and the weight of the man before you. The forest becomes a maze of combat. Branches snap beneath boots, arrows thrum past. The clash of metal on metal drowns out the birdsong. Around you, comrades fight, fall, rise again. Mud splashes your face, mingling with sweat and blood, and you barely notice. There's no time for anything but the next move, the next heartbeat. And then, a break. A horn sounds, sharp and clear, and the enemy falters. Their line wavers, the pressure eases. Your side surges forward, driving them back into the woods, reclaiming ground inch by inch. The enemy flees, not far, but enough. Enough to let you breathe. The field belongs to you, for now. You stand among the fallen, catching your breath, feeling the tremor in your arms, the ache in your legs. The river glitters behind you, the bridge still standing, battered but holding. Around you, men and women tend the wounded, gather weapons, speak in low voices of the fight just past. Above, the sky begins to darken with clouds. A breeze stirs the leaves, carrying with it the scent of rain and smoke and victory laced with sorrow. You know this is only a pause. The war is not done, but tonight the ground you stand on is yours. The moment your boots touch solid ground on the far bank, the air changes. The tension of the crossing doesn't lift. It sharpens, coils tight around every breath. The enemy is near now, too near, their banners flickering between the trees, their shouts carried on the wind. The ground beneath your feet is soft with moss and old leaves, but it feels as hard as stone under the weight of what comes next. The first clash is sudden, as these things always are. A burst of movement from the undergrowth, the glint of steel, the blur of faces both strange and familiar in their fury. You raise your shield just in time, the blow ringing against it like a bell. Your sword answers, finding a gap, driving your foe back. Not down, but back. The rhythm of battle returns to you, unwelcome and yet familiar, like an old song you thought you'd forgotten. Historians will later debate whether this was an ambush or simply a desperate defense. Some will say the enemy planned it, drew your forces across only to break them piecemeal. Others will claim they were as surprised as you, unready for the ferocity of your crossing. You, standing in the thick of it, know only this. The world narrows now to blade and breath, to the heartbeat in your ears and the weight of the man before you. The forest becomes a maze of combat. Branches snap beneath boots, arrows thrum past. The clash of metal on metal drowns out the birdsong. Around you, comrades fight, fall, rise again. Mud splashes your face, mingling with sweat and blood, and you barely notice. There's no time for anything but the next move, the next heartbeat. And then, a break. A horn sounds, sharp and clear, and the enemy falters. Their line wavers. The pressure eases. Your side surges forward, driving them back into the woods, reclaiming ground inch by inch. The enemy flees, not far, but enough. Enough to let you breathe. The field belongs to you for now. You stand among the fallen, catching your breath, feeling the tremor in your arms, the ache in your legs. The river glitters behind you, the bridge still standing, battered but holding. Around you, men and women tend the wounded, gather weapons, speak in low voices of the fight just past. Above, the sky begins to darken with clouds. A breeze stirs the leaves, carrying with it the scent of rain and smoke and victory laced with sorrow. You know this is only a pause. The war is not done, but tonight the ground you stand on is yours. Dawn comes slowly, slipping through the mist that clings to the trees like a second skin. The camp stirs, reluctant but resigned, as the sky shifts from black to bruised purple to the pale gold of morning. You rise stiffly, every joint protesting the cold, the damp, the weight of the day ahead. The fires are down to coals now, and the scent of smoke clings to your cloak, your hair, your skin. The river is quiet, deceptively so. Its surface is smooth as glass in the morning light, hiding the pull of its current beneath. You cross it again in your mind, feeling the tremor of the bridge underfoot, hearing the hiss of arrows. A crossing paid for in sweat and blood, but paid in full. The army moves out. Slowly at first, a procession of banners and carts, of horses stamping steam into the chill air, of soldiers adjusting straps, checking blades, exchanging the weary glances of those who know the road ahead offers little mercy. The ground is soft from the night's rain, turning the track to mud, but on you go. There is no turning back. Historians will later puzzle over what drove the next march. Was it strategy, desperation, the lure of a prize too great to ignore? Some will write of brilliant tactics, others of folly dressed as courage. But as you walk, the truth seems simpler. The war calls, and you answer, because what else is there? By midday, the mist burns off, revealing the land ahead. Hills roll like sleeping beasts, their backs dotted with trees and stone outcrops. And there, distant but clear, the towers of the enemy's fortress, rising stark against the sky, a grim silhouette, daring you to come closer. The pace quickens, orders are given, messengers ride out, scouts report movements on the high ground. The enemy sees you, as you see them, and both sides begin the quiet dance that comes before the storm. Your feet are heavy with mud, your shoulders sore beneath your mail, but you walk on. The fortress draws nearer, its walls higher, its gates darker with every step. Someone beside you mutters a charm for luck, tracing a symbol on the heft of their spear. You do the same, though you're not sure why. Maybe the world listens today, maybe not. The camp is made again at the edge of a shallow valley, the fortress looming beyond like a challenge cast in stone. Night will fall soon. Tomorrow, the siege begins. But tonight, you look at those walls and wonder, who will still stand when they fall? Dawn comes slowly, slipping through the mist that clings to the trees like a second skin. The camp stirs, reluctant but resigned, as the sky shifts from black to bruised purple to the pale gold of morning. You rise stiffly, every joint protesting the cold, the damp, the weight of the day ahead. The fires are down to coals now, and the scent of smoke clings to your cloak, your hair, your skin. The river is quiet, deceptively so. Its surface is smooth as glass in the morning light, hiding the pull of its current beneath. You cross it again in your mind, feeling the tremor of the bridge underfoot, hearing the hiss of arrows. A crossing paid for in sweat and blood, but paid in full. The army moves out, slowly at first, a procession of banners and carts, of horses stamping steam into the chill air, of soldiers adjusting straps, checking blades, exchanging the weary glances of those who know the road ahead offers little mercy. The ground is soft from the night's rain, turning the track to mud, but on you go. There is no turning back. Historians will later puzzle over what drove the next march. Was it strategy? Desperation? The lure of a prize too great to ignore? Some will write of brilliant tactics, others of folly dressed as courage. But as you walk, the truth seems simpler. The war calls, and you answer, because what else is there? By midday, the mist burns off, revealing the land ahead. Hills roll like sleeping beasts, their backs dotted with trees and stone outcrops. And there, distant but clear, the towers of the enemy's fortress, rising stark against the sky, a grim silhouette, daring you to come closer. The pace quickens. Orders are given, messengers ride out, scouts report movements on the high ground. The enemy sees you as you see them, and both sides begin the quiet dance that comes before the storm. Your feet are heavy with mud, your shoulders sore beneath your mail, but you walk on. The fortress draws nearer, its walls higher, its gates darker with every step. Someone beside you mutters a charm for luck, tracing a symbol on the heft of their spear. You do the same, though you're not sure why. Maybe the world listens today, maybe not. The camp is made again at the edge of a shallow valley, the fortress looming beyond like a challenge cast in stone. Night will fall soon. Tomorrow the siege begins. But tonight you look at those walls and wonder, who will still stand when they fall? Evening folds over the valley, soft at first, then thick and heavy as the last light drains from the sky. The fortress ahead glows faintly with the orange breath of torches, its towers watching like silent sentries. Your camp hums with the quiet industry of preparation. Armor mended, weapons sharpened, food shared in brief, somber meals. The air smells of oil, smoke, and damp earth. Every sound seems sharper, every shadow deeper. You sit near a small fire, the heat barely touching the chill that settled in your bones. Around you, voices murmur, plans whispered, prayers offered, jokes told with forced laughter. Someone hums a tune so old it might have come from the stones themselves. The kind of song meant to keep fear at bay. Tomorrow, the siege begins. Historians will write of this night as the calm before a storm, a pause heavy with the weight of what's to come. Some will claim your side held the advantage. Better ground, stronger numbers. Others will argue the fortress was too well prepared, the defenders too fierce. But here, now none of that matters. All you know is the thrum of your heartbeat, the cold bite of the wind, the looming shape of stone against the stars. You think of home, of quieter fields, of simpler days. You think of a meal you left half-eaten before the war called you away. You wonder if that plate still sits on the table, gathering dust. A foolish thought, maybe, but it anchors you in the sea of uncertainty. The commander rides through the camp, his silhouette tall and still in the torchlight. He says little, offers only nods and brief words of steadiness. His presence is enough. He's the rock the tide breaks against, and tonight, that's what you need. The fires burn lower. Sleep comes fitfully, in brief snatches stolen between watch changes and the restless shifting of those who dream of walls and ladders, of stones falling, of battles not yet fought. Above, the stars wheel on, indifferent as ever, and beneath their cold light, you wait. Because tomorrow, stone and steel will speak, and you must answer. Morning breaks not with sunlight, but with the clang of bells and the bark of commands. A pale dawn creeps over the valley, smearing the fortress walls with streaks of grey and gold. The ground beneath your boots is cold, damp and uneven, churned to mud by the endless tread of soldiers and carts. The air tastes of iron and ash, the smell of war already thick before the first arrow flies. You take your place among the ranks, shield on your arm, spear in hand. The siege engines, massive creatures of wood and rope, creak and groan as they're pulled into position. You can feel their weight in the ground, a slow, steady drumbeat of readiness. Nearby, a cart spills its load of stones meant for the catapults. The sound echoes in the morning stillness, loud as thunder. Historians will argue over who struck first, whether your side loosed the first stone or the defenders fired the first arrow. You'll remember it only as a blur. A cry, a crash, a sudden storm of noise and motion. The walls answer with their own fury. Arrows darken the sky, stones fall like hail. The air fills with the crack of wood, the ring of steel, the shouts of the living and the dying. You press forward because that's what you must do. The ladder is heavy on your shoulder, and each step feels like climbing through water, thick with mud and fear. At the wall, you raise it, hands stinging where the wood splinters your skin. Above, faces glare down, defenders ready to push, stab, burn, whatever it takes to keep you out. And still, you climb. The ladder sways. The world narrows to stone and sky, to the press of bodies, the scrape of boots, the sting of smoke. You reach the top, or almost, and a blow from a club sends you crashing back. The fall knocks the breath from you, leaves you staring at the sky, wide and empty, the clouds drifting on as if none of this matters. A hand hauls you up. A comrade, face streaked with dirt and blood, says nothing, just nods. You nod back. Together, you ready another ladder. Because the siege goes on. Because it must. The day blurs. A rhythm of charge and fall, of advance and retreat. The fortress stands, battered but unbroken as the sun sinks toward the horizon. Fires burn along the wall, smoke curling like black banners into the darkening sky. You drag yourself back to camp, too tired for fear, too numb for pain. The ground welcomes you like an old friend, rough but steady. Around you, the wounded groan, the living count their luck, the commanders plan the morrow. And you? You stare at the fortress, at the walls that still stand, and wonder how many tomorrows it will take. Night cloaks the valley once more, thick with smoke and the bitter scent of spent fire. The stars glint coldly overhead, their light barely reaching the ground, where shadows of tents and siege engines sprawl like the bones of giants. The camp murmurs with the sounds of repair and recovery. The hiss of water on hot metal, the low hum of voices patching both armor and spirit. You sit apart for a moment, back against a broken cart, watching the fortress beyond. Its walls are scarred now, dark smudges marking where fire and stone have struck. Yet it stands, tall, silent, unyielding, like a promise you can't yet break. A bowl of thin stew finds its way to your hands. You eat because your body demands it, though the taste is ash, the warmth fleeting. Around you, others do the same, sharing food, water, whatever comfort can be had in the brief peace of night. Historians will debate the wisdom of pressing on. Was it bravery or madness dressed in mail? Some will claim the commanders knew victory was close, that the cracks in the fortress walls mirrored those in the defenders' resolve. Others will argue it was desperation that kept your army at the gates, unwilling to turn back, unable to imagine surrender. But here, under the weight of night, there is only the next day's task. You see it in the eyes of your comrades, that glint of determination mingled with dread. No one speaks of retreat, no one dares. The engineers work by torchlight, adjusting the angle of the great trebuchets, checking the ropes of the battering ram. A murmur runs through the camp. News of fresh supplies arriving, of allies drawing nearer, of signs the enemy weakens. Maybe true, maybe not. Hope, after all, is a tool of war as much as sword or shield. Sleep comes slowly. When it does, it is restless, filled with dreams of falling stones, of walls that crumble or hold, of ladders that reach the sky, the kind of sleep that leaves you more tired than before. And when the dawn begins to pale the horizon, you rise again, because the siege is not over, because the walls still stand, and so must you. Dawn comes thin and cold, painting the battlefield in shades of silver and gray. A mist clings low over the ground, softening the brutal shapes of siege towers and broken ladders. The fortress looms through it all, scarred, defiant, a jagged line against the sky. You shiver, whether from chill or the weight of what this day demands. You can't quite tell. Orders ring out. The camp stirs. Men and women move with the slow precision of those who've done this too many times. Strapping on armor, shouldering shields, checking weapons for the 100th time. A rhythm born of necessity, as familiar now as breath. You're handed a fresh spear. The wood smells sharp, like sap and sweat. The point gleams in the pale light. You wonder how long it will stay clean. Historians will puzzle over the tactics of this day, whether the choice to focus on the east wall was brilliance or folly. Some will point to maps, to records of the land's subtle slope, to the placement of hidden sally ports and weak points in the stone. Others will say it was chance, the way the sun rose, the way the wind blew smoke. But standing here, you care little for the why, only the how, only the now. The charge begins slow, a drumbeat first, steady, sure. Then the rising roar of voices, the thunder of boots, the groan of wheels as the great engines roll forward once more. Arrows arc through the sky like black rain. Stones crash, splintering wood, shattering bodies. The world narrows to noise, motion, the heat of your breath in your helmet, the sting of grit in your eyes. You run, you fight, you fall, rise, fight again. The wall is close, too close, a living thing, breathing fire and fury. Defenders hurl down stones, pour boiling pitch, thrust at you with spears. But the ladders rise, the ram strikes. Again, again, somewhere in the chaos, you find yourself at the base of the wall. The stone is slick with rain, with blood. Your fingers fumble at the ladder. You climb, heart pounding, muscles screaming. The world is a blur of gray and red and black. At the top, a clash, a cry, a tumble. You taste earth, grit, copper. The wall remains, but so do you. Evening finds you where dawn left you, at the foot of that fortress, bruised, bloodied, but unbroken. The siege holds, the walls hold. But so does your will, and tomorrow will come, as it always does.
Night once again claims the battlefield, draping it in a blanket of uneasy stillness. The fires burn low, casting flickering shadows that dance across the battered siege engines and shattered earth. The fortress walls, though chipped and charred, remain, like the spine of some ancient beast too stubborn to die. You sit near one of the great trebuchets, its massive arms stilled, its ropes slack, as if even it needs rest. The ground beneath you hums with the echoes of the day's fury, as though the earth itself remembers every blow, every cry. The sky above is clear, studded with stars, but offers no comfort. The cold creeps in, finds the cracks in your armor, the weariness in your bones. Food is scarce tonight. A crust of bread, a mouthful of broth shared among too many, yet no one complains. The silence of hunger binds you all tighter than any chain. A comrade beside you hums softly, an old song of home, of fields far from this cursed place. You don't know the words, but the tune drifts through the air like smoke, like memory. Historians will later write of this siege's final night with dramatic flair, the quiet before the storm, the calm before the last assault. They'll argue about the commander's choices, whether the delay was wisdom or fear. They'll speak of strategy, of courage, of fate. But here, now, none of that matters. All that matters is the dawn, and what it will bring. Around you, preparations continue. Torches sputter as men check the battering ram's frame, as engineers whisper over plans scrawled on scraps of parchment. You see the glint of sharpened blades, the glimmer of fresh arrows, the pale faces of those too young or too old for this, but here nonetheless. Sleep teases but never stays. When you close your eyes, the wall looms behind your lids, its stones waiting, watching. When you doze, you dream of climbing, of falling, of hands reaching for purchase and finding only air. And so you sit, waiting for the first light, for the signal, for the moment when once again, the valley will fill with the noise of war. The fortress stands. You stand. And the night holds its breath.
Dawn breaks soft and pale, as if reluctant to witness what's to come. The valley lies hushed beneath its fragile light, mist coiling low over the ground like the breath of ghosts. The fortress rises ahead, its battered walls casting long shadows. In this moment, everything feels suspended, a heartbeat held too long, a promise on the edge of being broken. You rise with the others, stiff and cold, every muscle an echo of yesterday's struggle. The air smells of ash, damp earth, and the faint tang of metal. Orders ripple quietly through the ranks, voices low, as if louder words might shatter the fragile calm. This is the last push. You feel it in the set of shoulders around you, in the determined silence, in the way hands grip weapons not with bravado, but with grim purpose. The engines are ready, the ladders repaired, the ram positioned. All eyes fix on the walls, those stones that have held so long, that have defied fire, stone, and will. Historians will argue over what turned the tide today. Some will say it was the breach in the eastern wall, a weakness overlooked in the night. Others will claim it was the sheer weight of numbers, the inevitability of persistence. A few will whisper of luck, of fate, of divine favor or curse. But you know, standing here, that it is none of these things, and all of them. It is simply that the siege could not last forever. The signal comes. A single horn's cry, long and low. The valley erupts, shouts, the thunder of feet, the groan of wood and the clash of steel. The walls seem to tremble under the onslaught. You move with the tide, carried forward by resolve, by duty, by the simple fact that there is nowhere else to go. The fight is fierce. The defenders do not yield easily. Blades flash, stone fall, and the air is thick with dust and cries. You climb, you strike, you slip, you rise. The breach widens, and with it the end draws near. And then The walls are behind you, the fortress is taken, the battle is done. Night falls gently over a valley changed forever. The fires burn low. The fortress, silent at last, casts no more shadows. You sit apart, watching the stars appear one by one, their light soft, distant, indifferent. Your body aches, your spirit is heavy, but there is peace now. A fragile, fleeting peace. The kind that comes only at the end of such things. You breathe deep, the air cool and clean at last. The sounds of the camp fade. A lullaby of quiet voices, of the crackle of dying fires, of the soft rustle of the night wind. The siege is over. Sleep comes gently now, like a hand on your brow, like a voice whispering you home. Let it take you. Let the dreams come soft and kind. Let the stars keep watch.